I'm Melissa.
It was a family dinner at our place last week. I cooked a meal using the recipes my father had taught me, and the Harringtons seemed utterly shocked that a CEO could handle a kitchen. As I looked at them trying to understand my culture through the food, I was taken back to that fateful Christmas dinner. It was Christmas, and the warm glow of the dinner was suddenly shattered by an accusation that hung in the air like a cold, harsh frost. My mother-in-law, Victoria Harrington, had just called me a gold digger in front of 20 family members. She slid a thick envelope across the table, containing a post-nuptial agreement. I'm Melissa, but the Harringtons used to call me that investment girl behind my back. I've spent years building one of the most successful real estate investment firms in Chicago, focusing on high-end vacation resorts. However, my in-laws had no idea. They thought I was just a low-level property manager who had somehow tricked their precious son, Henry, into marriage. Victoria said they were just protecting the family's interests. I looked at Henry, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. He'd been caught between my world and his family's expectations since we got married 3 years ago. As a cardiologist, he understood hard work, but he'd also grown up in a wealthy Chicago family where image was everything and family loyalty was like a gilded cage. Henry's father, Arthur Harrington, cut him off when he tried to speak up. She's from a different background. No family connections, no trust fund, and this vague job. And now she's married to one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors, he said. My Hispanic heritage and myself made career were strikes against me in their eyes. I picked up the post-nuptial agreement. The terms were exactly what I'd expect from the Harringtons, designed to leave me with nothing if Henry and I ever divorced. Henry said it was unnecessary, and we did have our own arrangement. When we got married, we'd mutually decided to keep our finances separate. Henry, like his family, didn't know the full extent of my wealth. Victoria mentioned cousin Lucas's wife, saying she'd nearly ruined him in a divorce. In fact, Lucas, who lived in one of my resorts at a discounted rate out of respect for Henry, had been ruined by his own gambling addiction, not his wife. I tried to point out the misconceptions, but Arthur interrupted, saying I didn't fit into the family. I knew exactly how much of their supposed wealth was just an illusion. My firm had analyzed their family assets during a potential acquisition last year. The Harringtons were rich in land but short on cash, living off old money that was quickly running out. Just then, my phone alerted me. Someone had made an offer on the luxury vacation resort where we were having Christmas dinner. The Harringtons had been trying to buy it for a year, not knowing it was already owned by my holding company. I stood up and said, "Before I sign anything, I'd like to show you something." I pulled out my laptop, ignoring Victoria's disapproving look. When I turned the screen towards them, it showed my company's portfolio dashboard, with details of the resort and 30 other luxury properties across the Midwest. At the top of the screen was the logo of my company, Silver Sand Investments, and my title as CEO, Melissa Gomez. The silence was deafening. Arthur said it was a joke, insisting I was just a property manager. I pulled up another document and explained that I was the owner and CEO of the company that managed their entire vacation resort and many others. Henry looked at me with a mix of surprise and pride. I told them about the offer, which was $20 million below market value, and that I'd have to decline. Victoria's face went from superiority to shock to anger. She accused me of lying, but I corrected her, saying they'd made assumptions about me from the start. Arthur pulled out his phone to verify my claims. I revealed that my company, Silver Sands Investments, was a subsidiary of the Gomez Group, founded by my father, who had taught me everything about real estate before he passed away 5 years ago. Henry reached for my hand under the table and asked why I hadn't told them. I said I wanted to be accepted for who I was, not what I was. I also mentioned that I'd kept the rates of their properties well below market value out of respect for Henry. The rest of the dinner was filled with uncomfortable silence. As we were about to leave, Henry asked me why I hadn't told him the full extent of my business. Asked if it would have changed anything, and he said he would have bragged about me sooner. But our moment was interrupted by Arthur, who said we needed to talk about the Harrington properties. I suggested we meet at my office the next week. On the drive home, Henry said the Harringtons would be difficult to deal with. I knew it was time for changes in how the Harrington properties were managed, starting with a complete audit. Over the week between Christmas and New Year's, the Harringtons went through stages of denial, anger, bargaining, and finally tried to use the situation to their advantage. They called, sent gifts, and some family members asked for favors. I donated the gifts and ignored their attempts to win me over. When Arthur came to my office for the meeting, he was shocked by the grandeur of my office. I laid out the audit findings, including preferential treatment for family members, tax arrangements on the edge of legality, and maintenance issues in non-family properties. I presented him with a new management contract with standard rates, proper maintenance schedules, and accounting practices. He argued that it would bankrupt some family members, but I offered a 6-month transition period for them to get their affairs in order. He accused me of getting revenge, but I told him it was about running a professional business. I reminded him that they were my tenants and business associates, not my family, as they'd made that clear for 3 years. The next morning, I received an email from Victoria asking for a private lunch to clear the air. I agreed and chose a small Italian restaurant I owned. At lunch, Victoria apologized for the misunderstandings. I told her there were no misunderstandings, that they'd been prejudiced and discriminatory towards me for 3 years. She flinched when I said that. I told her I expected professional courtesy, respect for proper business practices, and an honest attempt to know who I really was. Over the next 6 months, some family members adapted well. Lucas thanked me for the structured hardship program that helped him deal with his gambling addiction. Others found jobs and started paying their own way. The real breakthrough came when Victoria came to my office. She showed me an old photo album and talked about her family's history. Her grandmother had started buying properties during a recession when women weren't expected to run businesses. We talked for 2 hours about family, ambition, and expectations. She said I reminded her of her grandmother. Now, as I sit here with the Harringtons at our family dinner, I look at the unsigned post, nuptial agreement, in my office drawer. It's a reminder that true worth is about staying true to myself and sometimes giving people a chance to be better. And with the news of my pregnancy waiting to be shared, I hope this new chapter will bring more understanding and harmony to our family.